Carter in at the point guard position. One thing about Jose Calderon, you could see the frustration in him last season playing a career-low 42 games, and his averages were down pretty much, Greg, across the board.
Yeah, and Kevin, he was brought in to kind of invigorate the Knicks' point guard position, but following a preseason calf injury, he missed the team's first 13 games and never was able to really get going. Remember, coming into a new system where he had to learn how to play differently, and then after all that, you have to shut him down because of that left Achilles.
About 1 minute into the first quarter. And Aflalo kicks to Calderon. Stolen by Carter. And here we go. Carter heading to the hoop. That's it. He's got 2 made now, and he's shooting 2 for 3.
And getting back to Jose Calderon, he's been an extremely efficient shooter for a point guard, 48% from the field throughout his career. But last season, he couldn't hit it at all. I mean, he dropped down to 41%.
Bulls have gone 2 of 3 here to start out the game. Carter, good, and the assist goes to Gasol. And that's now 6 points for Mr. Clutch. The Knicks have gone just 1 of 4 to get this game started. McDermott with the steal. Fast break. Here comes Chicago. Here's Carter. Another one falls for Chicago. And a breakdown here, guys. The hustle stats for the Bulls.
And it's been about their defense. They're playing with a frenetic pace, putting a lot of pressure on the ball handlers and forcing turnovers.
Another big aspect of their game tonight has been the fast break, transition opportunity. They're really keeping it up-tempo so far.
And, on the topic of Jose Calderon, his game is predicated on getting others involved. Last season, he had Carmelo Anthony to throw it to, and really pretty much no one else. So defenders could key on him a little more, causing him, I thought, to become just a little less efficient.
Now here is Carter. 10 points for him. 1:19 left to play in the first quarter. And the lead now, double digits on that bucket. Carter's got 12 points in the game.
Every time they get scored on during this run, it's come from inside the paint.
Yeah, they have really owned the interior. You've got to collapse that defense and force them to beat you over the top.
And really, the Bulls weathered a lot of injuries last season and still had a good showing in the East. Came away with the 3 seed when many thought they would sink down after missing so many games from key players.
Looking at who's out there now for the Knicks. Kelly Olynyk's checked in for Kyle O'Quinn. And it's Tony Wroten in for Aaron Aflalo.
You can't give him that shot. A few open looks are all it takes to get him in the zone.
That drive by Carter, the rebound by Wroten. And the Bulls did end up with the 3rd seed in the East. 33 of their 50 wins last year, Clark, coming in the Eastern Conference.
But it wasn't an even distribution of those wins for the Bulls. Against their own division in the Southeast, they played .500 basketball. They got their good in-conference record from feasting on the Atlantic teams, taking 16 wins in 18 games against that division. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They keep getting in the paint and keep scoring points. Keep it going.
Not a lot you can do as a defense when they keep getting the ball in the paint like this.
Now Calderon. Fires for 3. No good on that last second attempt there. And a double-digit lead on the scoreboard as we end the first quarter of play. Bulls lead by 10. The second quarter coming up right after this break, so don't go anywhere. And before the game, Carmelo Anthony talked about how he prepares himself mentally to carry this team. You don't hear too many players, Greg, saying it's easy and they're not too concerned.
Yeah, or talking about possibly winning basketball games. But I have a feeling he's more concerned than he talks about, and when he says it's easy. It may be for him, but it sure didn't look easy for the Knicks last season.
Well, not exactly a close game so far, but as the second quarter starts here, plenty of time for a comeback. And before we move on, what do you guys think about what we've seen so far from the Bulls?
I just like the way they're getting out in the open floor, taking advantage of all those fast break chances here early on.
I agree with you, Greg. I mean, they can run, and they've done a good job filling the lanes in transition.
So for Chicago right now, Butler and McDermott filling out the perimeter. Mirotic is out there with Pau Gasol. And it's Carter in at point guard. Knicks trail by 13. From beyond the arc, Roten, no good. Well, guys, what a nice surprise Tony Roten was last season, especially effective taking over at the point, Clark, with Michael Carter-Williams gone.
Yeah, Roten put up a career-high 5 assists per game and really worked hard at the defensive end as well. He's one of the few talents on the Sixers roster that hadn't been traded away.
Here in the second quarter with a little over a minute gone. Pass to Carmelo. Baseline jumper. A tad short, but it's good off the front iron. Anthony's got 6.
He presents a defender with a serious challenge, always.
Carter, the pass to Butler. Dishes it to McDermott. Out of bounds, New York takes possession. And how about a look at a few of the hottest players in the NBA right now, the top scoring shooting guards in the past 10 games. Number 1, Jimmy Butler.
And it's his explosiveness that jumps right out at you. I mean, he exploits gaps in the defense better than any player in the league. If there's an opening, he'll find it.
Yeah, and you need that kind of burst from the off-guard position, and boy, does he ever give it to him. I mean, he's a constant threat and a potent weapon.
Time called here. The Bulls decide to talk it over. In addition to going over the game plan and making whatever necessary adjustments have to be made, Greg, this timeout also the time for players to get rehydrated or hydrate for the first time with some Gatorade. Plenty of basketball still to be played here, and they have to get recharged.
That's a great point. Without proper hydration, a player can completely run out of gas down the stretch of a game. And that's something that none of these guys can afford to have happen. If you're going to battle all the way to the finish, you have got to be hydrated.
Last season ended with the Knicks pretty much packing it in, but Clark, it didn't start out that way.
You know what? Not at all. I mean, the Knicks were picked by many, Kevin, to be a playoff team last season. Clearly, things did not go as planned.
Lance Thomas, he's checked in for Anthony. That drive by Carter, and the basket good. Carter's got 9 points in the quarter.
They're forcing the ball inside, and it's working beautifully.
It really is. 5 out of 6 of their last field goals have come from the paint. And it became clear, thinking about the Knicks again, I mean, it made sense for a team with injuries and being in disarray on the floor to just battle for that lottery.
Time call here. The Knicks decide to talk it over.
You know, kind of packing it in for the sake of being better in the future can possibly work in New York for a year or two, but not longer than that. The media will eat you up there if you don't start making some progress towards winning, pleasing basketball.
Kyle O'Quinn is checked in for New York. Here's Carter. Plays it up and banks it in. Carter's got 25 points.
And he's starting to show that killer instinct this quarter, looking to extend the lead.
They set the pick. The 9-foot shot. Count that one. The Bulls' lead has been cut down to just 10 points on the bucket from Roten.
That was big because they dug a big hole in the first quarter, but starting to show signs of life.
Sometimes, for whatever reason, a lot of times you don't know why. It takes a little while to work the knots out, but it looks like they're putting it together right now.
For Chicago, they won their last contest that game against the Detroit Pistons.
And across the board in that game, guys, they shot the lights out.
Rarely do you see a team shoot like that from everybody. I mean, they were getting scoring from every position all over the court.
Poke loose. And here we go. The Bulls fast break. Carter leading the charge.
And, folks, he does more than just put 2 points onto their lead. He does it with a little bit of flair.
He sure does. You're right. It's a dazzling move to the bucket for him.
I'll tell you what, he may not be the biggest man in the league, guys, but he more than makes up for that lack of size with amazing aerial skills.
From deep. Jacks up a 3, and good on the basket. Book it. Carter's got 34.
And he could be the guy to put this game out of reach.
And through the first half, a pretty lopsided affair. It's the Bulls up 19. And now we'll send it down to Doris Burke, who's standing by courtside.
Well, Pau, tell us what have been the key aspects to how this team is playing so far through the first 2 quarters. Just had to be aggressive from the beginning, take the shots that were there, and move the ball. We're being unselfish. We were defending better in the first quarter, and we were able to knock down the shots.
The 2K Sports Halftime Show.
Hey again, everybody. We've been watching a pretty lopsided game through the first half. That's for sure. Chicago came ready to play. Their mission to dominate early was accomplished with a spirited 14-4 run to start. After a solid quarter of play, they held a 10-point lead. Then in quarter number 2, it was all hands on deck, and what a show it was. Quality execution, good. And that'll do it for now as we send you back to Kevin Harlan for the start of the second half.
And as we welcome you back, we begin our second half. So far, not a tightly contested game, guys, but you know, anything can happen. What can you say, Mr. Clutch? An impressive effort here today.
Yeah, he was in attack mode from the word go. Came out very aggressively in that first half.
Take a look at his shot chart. It looks like the ink spilled right at the rim. No reason for him to settle for anything less.
They've got Calderon. Porzingis is out there with Anthony. Then there's Kyle O'Quinn, and it's Afflalo in at the 2. That's the 5 to begin the second half for Kurt Rambis.
Boy, for the Knicks last season, saying it was rough is an understatement. There was a lot of turbulence, and some of it was due to their defense. They just had a difficult time stringing together stops and cutting down opponents' scoring chances.
Carter against Calderon. Carter drives in. Somehow ignores the tight D and gets the layup. Carter's got 38 points.
They're finding lanes to the hoop now with consistency. 5 buckets in a row from the paint.
And on the flip side, Greg, the defenders have to show more fight on the interior. They've got to offer more resistance here.
And out of bounds it is. Last touch by Mirotic.
You know, guys, coaching in the NBA is not for the faint of heart. Very little job security. I mean, in essence, you get hired to be fired. Let's face it, it's hard to make a bunch of millionaires do what you tell them to when they might be around longer than you will.
And Afflalo kicks to Calderon. 5 on the clock. Goes back up. The shot's good from O'Quinn. O'Quinn's got his first basket of the night.
Finally, they get one to drop. That's one of their first 4 here in the third.
Carter drives in, and he takes that one up and powers it through.
Haven't we seen